What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. Joining me this week is Tina Amini.
Hello, everybody.
Justin Davis.
Scoop.
And Sam Claiborne.
Whoa! Hey, everybody. Just like rehearsal.
Oh, man, it went so well. During our pre-show, Sam was showing off some new Virtual Boy games.
Yeah, of my own creation.
We've got a great show for you this week. We're going to talk about what's going on with Nintendo. We'll talk a little bit more about Ghost of Tsushima, which we're all playing now. But first...
What is happening?
My son takes... Hold on. My son takes an online music class, by which I mean he watches an online music class.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of every class, they play this song. Hello. Am I still on camera? Okay. Hello to the listeners. So nice to see you. Hello to the viewers. So nice to see you too. Hello to Tina. So nice to see you. Hello to Lion. Am I glad to see you? Hello to Sam. So nice to see you. Hello to Justin. So glad to see you. Hello, I'm Damon. Am I glad to see you?
That was so sweet.
We call that the first song.
You're gonna.
Well,
can you compose a new song for every week?
I was going to say the same one every week.
We're just going to start every episode with that song now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, once you've delivered on that, like we can't go back. Yeah.
Okay.
Does the music teacher do that, but you learned it just from hearing it a bunch?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good work.
Yeah.
It's good. Some good ear training there.
He was supposed to actually go in person to his music class, but since the pandemic started, they're just doing the class online and it's live streamed. And then she asks questions about what the babies are all doing now and then personalizes the songs to all of them. It's very cute. He loves it.
Sweet.
Okay, let's begin with what we've been playing. And I think we're all playing Ghost of Tsushima now. Justin, you started it? Seem to have lost, Justin?
Yeah, I did start it. I really like it. The art direction in that game. Am I gone? Am I back?
Well, now
you were just
now you're back.
Am I here?
Is this real life?
Yeah, yeah. I'm having a few internet troubles today, so bear with me, please. Yeah, I am playing Ghosts. That game is beautiful. My two favorite things are composing the haikus. I think is really good, and I actually really like reflecting in the hot springs as well, where it's like, do I want to reflect on my father or my uncle? And then it provides my character some motivation to go out and chop Mongols' heads off. It's a very, you were saying this last week, Damon, it's a very video gamey game. It's not really, you're exactly right about The Last of Us. It's not really trying to break new ground or do a bunch of crazy new stuff. It's just trying to be a fun open world game. Feels like a game that was sort of plucked from 2014 and dropped into 2020, but with 2020 sort of visuals and graphics.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think it was Kotaku had an article yesterday where they showed the haikus that they wrote in their game to a real haiku writer, and they were not impressed.
No?
Yeah.
I totally misinterpreted that system, by the way, because I initially thought that if you picked one sentence, it would give you a totally separate option to trickle down towards that effect. And I just messed it up and I ended up creating a random haiku by the end of it where it totally did not track with the system I thought it would be, but it was still lovely by the end of it, I thought.
Yeah, that's one of the times where it uses the game engine to show you something really beautiful that you just realize how amazing that open world is when you can see oh, they set the time of day, they set the light right, and then it's this trickling stream of water, and then the sunset, and then leaves rustling in the trees. Those are just open world shots they're using there that you just chose in real time. It's amazing. That's one of the best examples of how detailed that world can be.
Yeah. So I've been playing for 2 weeks now. I'm still in Act 1. So I don't know. Like it's just a really, really big game. Where Tina and Sam, where are you guys?
Also still in Act 1. The map is huge and it gets bigger apparently. So yeah, there's a lot of game in this game.
Yep, I'm in Act 3. Wow. I'm like really obsessed with uncovering the map, so I've been doing that a lot, and then I like kind of go through the main quests. But I've been playing so much. I got this thing recently, which is really frustrating. It's a thing that you have to basically chain kills with, and you cannot get hit. So it's like you could kill 3 enemies, and then 5 minutes later kill 4 more enemies or whatever, and then it's chained, and then you get to use this ability. But that's like the one thing that like if you get just a slight interruption from like an arrow off screen or a dog biting you or whatever, it screws it up. And for some reason, it's like all I think about now. And so I have to like kind of like I'm obsessing over it, and I have to. And it doesn't even give you that big of a reward, but it's something that really changed the way I'm playing recently, which is funny. Also, something that changed the game the way I'm playing is I got the kick, and the kick allows you to just kick people comedically off ledges, and I love that so much.
Yeah, that's the best.
It's really good.
Are there a total of 3 acts, or are there more?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like Castlevania. It's like you go do, and then there's the boss, and then there's the next castle, and the next castle.
And then are the acts all of about or similar length? Does it seem like?
Yeah, and they're similar area sizes too. The second when you get just to the second one, like I was like, I'll take some time and see like how different can they make these maps, because the first one's really varied. There's just a lot of environments and beauty to be had. Yeah. And I just rode across it, and it took me 30 minutes. The second part.
That's awesome.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's really, really cool just to go out and explore.
Yeah, I love it. It's like I said, I'm even though I've been playing for 2 weeks, I'm still in Act 1, but it might end up being my favorite game of the year so far. So now in my mind, I'm having the conversation of comparing it to the last great open world game that I played, which is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I'm like, well, I actually don't know. Yeah, I don't know which one I like better right now. I think they both have really, really beautiful worlds. I liked how you're traveling the seas and going to different islands on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and the stealth mechanics are much more involved. So I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out there. But then the other game I keep comparing it to in my mind is Breath of the Wild, because I really wish Ghost of Tsushima had a hang glider tool. So many times I get up high. I get up high in a mountain, and I want to just like jump off and glide to the ground.
Instead, you have to find ledges to fall onto. One way you can compare these and make your decision is it's really just beaches versus hot springs. All right. So you just got to make that call.
Yeah, it's true.
I do think that fall.
I think the fall damage is ridiculous in this game. Like I feel like it's too. I don't know what it should be. I should be able to fall from a greater height without taking that much damage. I think
you can upgrade it's a video game. Skill. There's a skill you can get. There's a skill you can get where you just hit circle right before you land and you roll, so you take the brunt of the damage that way. There are some heights you still can't do, but yeah, I suppose they didn't want it to be too comedic.
Yeah, there's
anti-fall damage in general.
Me too, Justin. Sure. Anti-fall damage.
Yeah, there's no fall damage in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so it's got that on.
Well, there you go.
So there is. That's also a skill you had to upgrade in Odyssey.
Yeah. I've also been playing an awesome new retro 2D action game called Panzer Paladin. I've been playing it on Switch. It's out now on Switch and PC. It's awesome. There's a little bit of a fake box art.
Oh, cool!
It's in like a big.
I didn't realize they were doing
it's in like a big VHS case. I don't know. Maybe the Neo Geo cartridges were like this. This really thick.
That's neat. Yeah. It's like the clamshell at Neo Geo. Mm-hmm.
This game is awesome. It's from Tribute Games, folks that did Mercenary Kings, Wizorb, Curses and Chaos, Flint Hook, but I think this is their best game yet. It's It's a mix of Mega Man and Blaster Master. So you can select any level you want to go to travel around the world, and it's themed for like a Japan level and a Mexico level and a Russia level. And it's got and then you're in a big mech. You're a tiny little android robot, and you drive a big mech, and you can hop out, and you're really little and move about the world. That's the Blaster Master part. And it has a really cool weapon mechanic where your default weapon is just your fists, but you pick up weapons that are randomly dropped by enemies: swords, maces, clubs, javelins, things like that. but they all have a durability system, kind of like Breath of the Wild. They're all going to break eventually. So you have to like, that's another sort of game you're playing in your mind of, do you want to use your really high damage weapon, even though it's going to be, losing durability and you're not going to be able to use it forever. But then also each weapon has a spell it can cast anytime, which will destroy the weapon. And then the spell might heal you. It might increase your damage. It might increase your defense. It's like, that's another thing to consider too. And you end up you can carry an unlimited amount of weapons. So you end up just having this huge store of weapons. And then when you're going into a boss fight, you have to think, man, do I want to use my good weapons on the boss or do I want to save them? Anyway, the game is called Panzer Paladin, and it is a super Damon game, and I highly recommend it.
Oh, I love unlimited inventory. And I wanted to mention one thing there is that Damon will text me game help. And he'll be like, hey, what do I do to beat these bosses in this game? He just was doing this for Ghost of Tsushima. And so then I was like, hey, Damon, in Bloodstained, how do you hit these candles that are really high up? He's like, I've moved on to a different game. That's it. That's what I got.
That's a solution, technically.
I started Panzer, then I'll get back to Bloodstained.
Well, I still don't know how to get those candles, so great. And I'm really far in that game now.
The girl can jump high. She can't reach the candles?
No. I just fought a Triceratops mummy. It was like a sarcophagus that looks like it's a griffin, but it's a mummy. And then when you kill the sarcophagus head, it's a Triceratops under it.
Of course.
It was amazing. All in pixel art. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. It's really one of the best designed things. It's just straight out of, Bizarro World Mega Man.
Justin, are you playing anything else besides Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, I am. And in regards to Panzer Paladin, IGN, Seth Macy reviewed it and gave it an 8. Said it's great. So Seth completely agrees with you. No, I also wanted to shout out, against my better judgment, I downloaded and reinstalled Lord of the Rings Online, and I don't have absolutely any room or time in my life for an MMO, but and yet here we are. I have a real soft spot in my heart for that game. By 2020 standards, it's not the best MMO on the market. It's very old. That game is almost 15 years old, but I love it. And that game has a lot of heart. And I am running around the Shire delivering pies to all the hobbits.
Are you a dwarf?
Pies.
Or a hobbit?
I'm a hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a hobbit guardian, and it turns out I know this might be shocking to you, but there are goblins encroaching on the edges of the Shire. So, it's important that I get in there and help them out.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, in Fellowship of the Ring, there are strange things that the hobbits keep hearing about. And then, of course, the strangest ones are the Black Riders. But they do have a system of guards. So that is based in the book. There's a system of hobbit guardians that circle the Shire. But, of course, the Rangers are really protecting them. They're not doing anything. The men of Numenor. I can keep going.
Yeah, no.
That's okay.
No, the Hobbit guards are called Bounders, and I am a Bounder.
Nice.
Cool.
That's so cool.
What's the player base for Lord of the Rings Online these days?
Nobody at all.
Just you.
4 or 5.
No, I mean, it's like all these old games where they have their sort of very core group of 10 or 15,000 people that they cater to them, and the game is still going, it's still releasing expansions and stuff, but it's not that game's glory days are over for sure. But
sure.
I really love it, and I think that game has a lot of heart, and it's free to play, so you don't need to worry about a subscription fee. So it's you can pop in once a week if you want, and that's what I don't know how it came to this, Damon, but this is what I've been playing this week.
I was thinking the other day, I hope that someday there's an easy way to play. Well, I mean, maybe there is now. Maybe it's good old games. An easy way to play all these old computer games that I missed growing up, especially during the 90s, because I used to go to Electronics Boutique and Babbage's, and we never had a computer growing up, but I would look at the computer games and flip the boxes over and look at the screenshots. So I was I felt like I knew a lot about Police Story and King's Quest and Leisure Suit Larry and the LucasArts point and click adventures, even though I never got to play them. So it'd be cool to have an easy way to play all that stuff now. But now that I'm actually saying it out loud, maybe good old games is just that.
Yeah.
MMOs are the exclusion. I forget which one it was that famously shut down a few years ago. But there's always like really sweet ceremonies of the players who are still super committed to them that end up sticking around and celebrating the last few days off. So those are the ones that you clearly need to play with Justin now, Damon, to get that experience before it's gone forever.
Yeah,
and
clearly.
sometimes they turn over the keys to fans to like run their own servers and stuff, but they just don't officially support them anymore, right? Or sometimes people just resurrect them on their own. It seems very, very difficult.
Okay, let's move on. We got an email this week, which I think is a pretty good topic. It's Jared from Kansas City. And he says, with next gen rapidly approaching, I wanted to ask you about the company who, as of now, doesn't have major hardware launching this fall, Nintendo. The Switch has undoubtedly been a runaway success, and I personally have loved mine despite its shortcomings. But is there any part of you that wonders if Nintendo is going to fall too far behind? I'm not just referring to graphical fidelity, but certainly you can't ignore that. Will the Switch's success continue even as more and more people transition over to PS5 and Series X? Or can Nintendo maintain its position on a few huge first-party games each year, indie support, and lots of ports? I found Nintendo's communication and overall offerings in 2020 to be very disappointing, and this week's mini direct sort of made me think about where they stand as we're now well over the halfway mark of the year. I say this as someone who loves Nintendo and wants them to continue to succeed, but they are a frustrating company to root for sometimes. Look into your crystal ball. Is Nintendo still a massive success in 2-3 years from now, and why?
It's a really good point. Every time I've talked to Reggie, former North American president of Nintendo, it's always been, their philosophy has always been to stand apart from the competition. I think that they don't really view themselves as on a congruous level as like Sony and Microsoft do on a versus perspective. Obviously, like the community will pit them against them regardless. You know, we as critics will also to a degree. But I think the point that, you know, we're well into the year and we haven't seen a lot of communication from them is a valid one. But then I also think about the fact that the pandemic threw so much off course. And it's been more difficult for some people to pick back up on, okay, what are we doing now as far as like work from home goes? Are we revisiting some of our marketing strategies because everybody's from home? Nintendo's a really like traditional company in a lot of ways, despite the fact that they experiment a lot. And that's why the Switch exists and why it's such a success. But I don't see like, you know, 2 to 3 years from now being the thing that puts a nail in the coffin for them. I mean, their success will give them enough of a runway and a roadmap to work off of. But their success will come from their unique perspectives and trying to play a different game rather than doing the whole like graphics versus like what graphics look like on PS or going to look like on PS5 and Xbox Series X. So that's not been something that they've really cared to be competitive with. They just want to make unique experiences on a unique piece of hardware that breaks into the mainstream in a way that Sony and Microsoft are thinking about, but, you know, maybe not on the same strategy as Nintendo is doing. So they're just playing a totally different game than they are.
Yeah.
I would say, if anything, I would be worried about the next-gen consoles. I mean, everybody just bought a Switch when they could, and they still are in such high demand that, you know, why would you want to play something on another system this fall? Well, I mean, there's the draw of graphics and there's the draw of game series that you're interested in, but the Switch is such a good library, and a lot of people are just getting into it after buying it for Animal Crossing. Like, the install base just swelled for the Switch. Like, Nintendo is going to announce games for this fall. They're going to have games this fall. So that's something to consider. Yeah, they will. But they also don't have to in a lot of ways, because they have Pokemon and they have Animal Crossing, and then they have these other games which they can kind of like squeeze in the cracks. Like, I think Paper Mario is a game that a lot of people are going to go for after Animal Crossing. It's cute, it's neat, it's super accessible for an RPG. It has Mario in it. They're pushing it hard. Like, it's an interesting time for them where if they have to, you know, rest on their laurels a little bit, they can do that.
Yeah,
not fun for us because we just want to play a bunch of new games. We've been playing all those games, but for a general audience that's new to that system, they, you know, could totally focus on that audience for right now.
Yeah, I just think it's really strange. The E3 window came and went, and Nintendo made no new announcements, reveals, and now we find ourselves in a position now that Paper Mario is out. There is no release date on the horizon for Nintendo. There's like we don't have any idea when the next Nintendo published game will arrive, and I can't remember a time when we were in that situation.
Oh, it's those dark ages around the GameCube, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's Nintendo's a real feast or famine company. They're not an easy company to be a fan of sometimes. The Switch is obviously reached these crazy heights. It's an overwhelming worldwide phenomena. But that's following the Wii U, which was one of the most disastrous consoles ever that any company has ever made. And they were able to bounce back with that with the Switch. But like, if you were a Nintendo fan in 2016 before the Switch came out, like, it was really, really dicey territory for that company to be, and it was a really, it wasn't. Only through the benefit of hindsight do we now know that the Switch was obviously the right move for Nintendo to make. But like, that console could have bombed, right? So they're really reliant on their innovation, and I think, as long, they have another 2 or 3 years of the Switch riding high and being a huge success and a worldwide phenomena, and then they live or die by whatever their next thing is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also wanted to point out, too, there are no other portable systems right now. There's your phones, and they've clearly found a way to reach people that's not phone games, that has like hardcore games and games that require controllers and stuff like that, for that you can hold on your couch. And that is more important than ever. Like, your parents might be watching TV all the time in your family's own television, and you have a Switch. Like, it's such a good time for the Switch to exist. But yeah, we should know about a bunch more games. That'd be great.
I think, like, I was absolutely shocked when the Wii sold, 100 million units. And I guess they did follow it up with the Wii U. Like, they continued that branding, but they didn't. It wasn't like a Wii 2. It wasn't a continuation of that console. It was another new thing and a new vision for video games. And I couldn't believe that they didn't double down on motion controls. And, that's similar to how I feel about the Switch, where, like, the conventional wisdom is this is the future of Nintendo, right? They're going to make these home console portable hybrids. Like, portables are where Nintendo likes to be, but like, maybe not. Like, that company seems to have a willingness to just throw out the Game Boy and the DS and, motion controls and be like, no, we're doing this now. Like, no other company would not have the Game Boy line continuing or some 2-screen handheld line continuing. Like, they'd continue milking that stuff till the end of time.
Yeah. Sam, you think 1 year from today, you think we're still going to be playing on our current models of Switch, meaning there hasn't been like a Switch Pro model 1 year from today?
Yeah, because I think the Lite was really recent, and that was, that exists for Pokemon, and then suddenly it existed for Animal Crossing, and that's the biggest game of this year. It just is. Like, there's nothing bigger, and so many people have those systems that, like, it's like, it'd be a weird thing to make them buy new systems right now. It's like, this is the absolute, like, life of the system. We're right in the middle of it, I think. And I don't think we need, like, new graphics or anything like that. Lighter would be nice.
A lighter system?
For sales either.
Yeah. All right, before we move on to our next topic, I just want to acknowledge, I know we're having video difficulties this episode. Apologies for that. The audio seems to be fine. So if you usually watch the show on YouTube or on IGN, one option is to always just listen to the audio version. This week, we're available in every podcast service.
You can just close your eyes too.
Yeah, you can also just close your eyes. Okay, I'm going to bring up an interesting list, Nintendo Life, which is a site I enjoy very much, covering Nintendo. They ranked every Virtual Boy game, and I particularly wanted to get Sam's thoughts on these. Sam, did you actually take a look at this list?
Yeah. No, I didn't, but I have the stack.
You have all the games?
Oh, yeah, they're right here.
Mike?
So with these, and then this is a couple of the boxes of ones that I don't have in the stack here. What I don't have here is Nestor's Funky Bowling, because that's at work and it's sealed.
That was at work,
and I've never opened it.
Would you agree that their number one pick was?
I've ranked mine though. I've ranked my list.
Wait, did you stack them in your ranking order?
Yeah, but I can just do the top 5 or whatever.
What'd you put on top?
Should I go first or no? Okay, I'm gonna go first.
Well, we can compare.
Wario Land.
Yeah, what'd you put? Yep.
Wario Land.
That's what they picked.
Great side-scrolling platformer. Shouldn't be locked behind the Virtual Boy. Second is Mario Clash, which is a remake of Mario Brothers, the arcade game in 3D. What'd they pick?
Mario Clash is not in their top 11.
Wow. And then I picked Red Alarm, which is a Star Fox like with like cool vector looking graphics, like wireframes. And then I'm going to really diverge from the list now. That's their 4. Now I'm going to go with Waterworld because it's really stupid and it's based on the Kevin Costner movie Waterworld. And it's really, really funny. It's about circling. You have like a circle of ships you defend, and it's just like an arcade game. Don't know why it exists. I think it's very funny.
That was at the very bottom of their list.
Okay, it should be either number 1 or 3. And then and then I put up Galactic Pinball, which is it's self-explanatory.
That's surprising. Sam picking a video pinball game. Just their top 11 was Wario Land, Tetris, 3D Tetris.
Yeah.
And
do you
Jack
need to play
Brothers.
that on your face? Yeah, I have Jack Brothers here.
That one.
That's a Shin Megami Tensei game. Yeah, it's from the Persona universe. Those are Persona characters. Isn't that weird?
It is from Atlas.
Persona Virtual Boy. Yep.
Then Red Alarm. Then Space Squash.
Yeah, Space Squash. Yep, of course.
Panic Bomber, which is a Bomberman game.
It's not a Bomberman game. This is a cute one. It's a like a Tetris Attack kind of like puzzle-y game with Bomberman in it.
Gotcha. Then Vertical Force, which is a shooter.
Yep. Great.
Galactic Pinball, Mario's Tennis, Nestor's Funky Bowling, and then Virtual Bowling. There were 2 bowling games for the Virtual Bowl.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yep. When
10% of the Virtual Boy's library is bowling games.
Yeah. There's only like 24 games.
When I was in Japan, I saw a fishing one too. It was like Black Bass or something. I would love to play virtual fishing on my Virtual Boy, but it's only in Japanese, the one I have.
Okay, let's check in with the listeners.
Hey, listeners.
Listeners, remember you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com, just like Lewis did. And Lewis says, I've been gaming for 24 years now, and I had never played a brawler-style game. After you spoke about Streets of Rage 4, showed some gameplay on a previous episode, I really dig the art style, decided to give the game a try. I played through the whole game in co-op with my girlfriend and thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. I was just wondering if you could offer any suggestions for other good brawler-style games. I own a PS4, Xbox One X, and a Switch. I would say, first off, maybe get yourself the Sega Genesis Classics collection.
That includes, a good suggestion.
Includes all 3 original Streets of Rage games, which are all great, and all 3 Golden Axe games, which are also brawlers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't take a lot of effort or thinking. You just brawl.
You walk right
I'd say
and brawl.
If you're going to go with the contemporary, there's only one, and that's Castle Crashers. I think it's like the perfect brawler. I don't know if anything's ever going to get more interesting than that one.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to even think of that as a contemporary game anymore. It's like
I know it's 10
years old, or
more.
I would add River City Girls onto the pile. It's made by Way Forward. Really, really good. I mean, I guess I presume that it's in the River City Ransom universe based off the name, or maybe it's just an homage. But Way Forward, it's a really, really good track record with this sort of thing, and that's one that you should consider too.
For sure. There's also the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. That includes Final Fight, Captain Commando, King of Dragons, Knights of the Round, and Warriors of Fate, as well as 2 games that were previously unavailable on consoles, Armored Warriors and Battle Circuit. And those are all Capcom brawlers.
Cool.
A super big brawler person. Not that I'm not a fan of them, just they don't, happen to be the thing that I seek out the most. But Shank was always super enjoyable.
Oh, Shank's good, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about that one.
That's a really good suggestion.
Yeah,
that's from
love that one. It is kind of forgettable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's an era of brawlers which is really fun and goofy and like it's better in the arcade. But if you want to like dig into like the best era, it's these ones with giant sprites that were mainly made by Konami. You have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, the Simpsons game, super cool, and then the Capcom stuff like X-Men. And then I think there's a few others in the Marvel series, but there's like really cool of that era brawlers that are just gorgeous, and they were only attracting people to their games in the arcades because they looked really good. Like they were like graphical powerhouses at the time, and that's why people played them. And the licenses. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, the Alien Brawler is in that same category where, as far as I know, I don't. Damon, did it ever come home in any sort of official release? I've only ever played it in like an unofficial way. So but it's incredible. It's really good.
Yeah, the Aliens one, I'm glad you mentioned it. That's a good one, and I don't think it actually has ever come home. Along the same vein, there's a Punisher arcade game from Capcom.
Oh, yeah.
It's also really good and a little bit surprising in how violent it actually is, which is true to the character. But like for an arcade game that anyone can walk up and play, it's like, whoa, okay, that's cool.
That's what they had to put in little ratings warnings.
Yeah.
I want to give a special shout out to the Yakuza games. They are stealth brawlers in disguise. They get a lot of press, deservedly, for how crazy and over the top they are, and how operatic the main story is, and all the crazy side quests. And you can bowl and you can run a club, but like the core gameplay is like a really, really competent, well-made brawler with like interesting combos and lots of different stances, and really fluid in how you can pick up things in your environment and beat somebody down with a bike or vending machine. They're really great, and there's a lot of them by now, so it's never too late to get into that franchise.
Yeah, I've been told many times that I would like those games. I just never have gotten around to playing them.
Start with Zero.
That's a remake. Is Zero actually a remake?
No, it's a prequel, but it's one of the few like. Sometimes people try to make prequels and then everyone says, well, don't actually start with the prequel, start with one and then go back and play the prequel. But it's like one of the rare exceptions where you actually should play the prequel first, and then it gives you additional context, and the emotional beats in one actually pay off better, which is a really rare, hard thing to do.
Got it. Tina, what were you going to say?
To the topic of like licensed brawlers and also contemporary, as far as I remember. But I never played it personally, but people talked about the Scott Pilgrim game quite fondly. If you guys played that one.
Yeah, it references old brawlers in that way. Like that's the point of that game. It's supposed to be like a cool 90s brawler, which is a good way to go.
But I don't think it's possible to like purchase it anymore.
Oh, is that something that got removed from stores or something like that?
I think it was delisted, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, and then there was talk of like bringing it back. That's why I remembered it more recently.
Yeah.
And then one more recommendation I would make. One of my favorite brawlers of all time is Double Dragon 2, and you can play that on Nintendo Switch Online. If you subscribe there.
We didn't mention Final Fight. I don't know if those games hold up, but they're pretty funny.
I did mention Final Fight because it's part of the Capcom.
Oh yeah, it's part of the collection. Bundle. Sorry, yeah.
First in there.
It's very funny.
That one's really good. Oh, my car. Moving on. This is Chris, and he says, I've been in the Army for 13 years now, and I enjoy gaming in my off time. I often keep this to myself since I work with type A alpha males who went outside as kids. Do you ever run into judgmental adults who view your hobby as less than? How do you explain your hobby and the value of games to an adult who sees it as something for kids or nerds? Who would like to start?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that attitude was like, it feels like it's a decade outdated or more at this point. Like the only people like I'm in my mid 30s, and people in their 30s and 40s. I wasn't aware that attitude still existed. I thought all those people grew up with games and then have varying degrees of relationships with games into adulthood. And it's really only the generation above me who's now, old, like they're getting really old, that didn't really understand that like, oh, games are something for adults and it's not just kids in their parents' basement playing anymore. Like I thought that attitude was kind of dying out, but maybe in a military context or certain industries or fields that attract a certain kind of person, maybe it's still more prevalent.
From a personal perspective, since the question is obviously a personal one, for me, it's more about it being a line of work, like part of my career. And a lot of people looking at it as like, oh, well, that's not a real job, because they just assume it's of the level of like a QA job where you just play games all day and give feedback or something. Not realizing that there's actually a lot of sitting at a desk and, writing and editing and going through a bunch of other processes. So I've definitely had to kind of rationalize to people at dinner parties what my job is, and that there is some validity and maturity involved in it. And they a lot of people have kids, their kids play Minecraft or something else, so their familiarity is limited to specific games. And so I have to kind of remind them that there's a whole wealth of games and creativity there. And I always try to relate it back as like, it's just another entertainment property when you think about it. So you go to the movies, you spend money on movies. It's movies are a billion dollar industry, as are games. Some, like, I think one of the, what was it, GTA 5 was like the entertainment property that made the most amount of money at some point of time that they recorded it.
Yeah.
Ever. Exactly. So, and that was like a recent bit of news. So that's the kind of thing that validates that experience where, like, I'm not a big sports fan, but when I look at how stadiums get filled up and tickets get sold out and people follow sports athletes' careers and whatnot, and there's business propositions around that, like licenses and whatever else that people go through, it's an entire functioning industry. So while it may not resonate with me personally, I respect the fact that it's an entire, like, organization with fans who it does resonate with. So I think there are other industries where that could be relatable. And just games has just always kind of been associated with, that's what my children do, or like that's that thing that makes a lot of money that no one can explain and occasionally shows up on your like local news network because, King or whatever back in the day, made impressive stock numbers. And that's the touch point where people who aren't closely associated with games start to feel like there's a relevance to it. Like even for my own parents, I think it finally clicked for them when I appeared on like NBC one time as like a guest panelist, and I was just alongside news anchors, and like, oh wow, it's important enough to be on local news. Like they got calls from their friends that were like, I see your daughter on TV right now, coincidentally, because it's something that they engage with on a regular basis. So that for them gives them that validation when it shows up in their usual networks and feeds.
Sam, what do you think?
I was going to mention something that Tina brought up, that, it's always surprising to think about our careers and like what we do. And there's this great book by Bud Schulberg called What Makes Sammy Run. It's about a journalist at that's trying to get ahead at his job. And he's awful. He's an awful person, but he pitches covering radio in like the 1920s and 30s. And like, it's like everybody's like, that's insane. Like you're going to write about radio. And then it turns out that it's like the most popular column in the paper. And by the end of the book, like everybody has a column about radio. Like I think about that because like when we were reading Nintendo Power and stuff, in magazines, like that was, in industry to cover games. But boy, it wasn't until 2005 onwards where like it became an industry. And we were all part of that. And there's this era in which I was reading Kotaku a lot, and Joystick a lot, and IGN a lot, and I really liked how people started covering, especially Kotaku, covering the culture of games and kind of fleshing that out as like, hey, there's people that enjoy these games, and this is what they're like, or these people that make these games, and this is what they're like, and they were all adults, like by that point, like everybody had grown up with it and were adults, and like at that, there was a line in the sand there for me reading and thinking about games, and in like 2010, 2013 or so, about like how this is an adult industry. And I haven't ever thought about it since then. But now that I do think about it, I think they are for babies, and you guys are just like really, really silly. And this show is like super stupid, and I can't believe I'm here right now.
Tina and Sam both touched on something of like, games breaking through to like more traditional media as being a sign of like legitimacy, like when it's on the evening news. Or I always think of the example of like esports as an industry has a lot of anxiety about being on ESPN, or like comparing themselves. Like more people watch the League of Legends World Championship than watch the NHL, or like, whatever the comparison is. And in my mind, that's always been the wrong. I'm like, let ESPN or let these old school outlets be a decade too late. Like let them take that long to catch on. Like you're building the new ESPN. Like it already exists on Twitch and, hopefully on IGN and on these other esports outlets. Like you can let like the old school mainstream media take, decades or a really, really long time to figure out that gaming is some $10 billion industry. And like, it doesn't need to be on the evening news. Like we're moving on without them. I used to have that same attitude of like, why aren't games taken more seriously and like, treated in the same way that movies and music are. But now I have a little bit of a different attitude where I'm like, they're going to figure it out eventually. And we'll already have been here this whole time.
Yeah.
think the other thing that's really unique about games is that there's so much research that goes into it, so much technology that's on the cutting edge. So I think there are other ways to relate to people, because it's not just the person on the couch sitting and playing the game. There's so much more to it that you can kind of emphasize to get people to find something that's interesting about it. My brother's a hacker, for instance, and he actually like genuinely keeps up with video game news because he's so fascinated by some of the technology that they use. So for him, we grew up, all of us playing games, so there's a little bit of a cheat there. But for him, like the way that he still keeps tabs on the industry is he doesn't really play games anymore. He now has a PS4 Pro in his apartment, thanks to yours truly. But outside of that, like he would have no game systems anymore, even though he used to. So now it's just that he keeps up with the trade in that sense. And then I think, if somebody's like just talking about Assassin's Creed Origins just before, and the other topic that we were talking about, like there's a lot of history that goes into that. There's a lot that it can actually be instructional to people. I believe they used it in some classrooms, and that there was like a museum mode that they were using to actually let people explore the area. So there's like an educational value to it. There's artistic value to it. Like I was playing Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us 2 with my other brother, and his wife was watching me play, and she was like, wow, it looks like a movie. So it'd been so long since she, as a kid, like sat down and kind of goofed around with games, and then long lost that interest. So seeing the modern version of it, she's just really impressed by its artistic value. The fact that there are well-known celebrities that are playing in it. She likes celebrity culture a little bit. So that's the thing that resonates with her. So I'll tell her, like, did you know Giancarlo Esposito is going to be playing in this like big video game from a company? And like, I can't go into too much detail to get her enticed by the conversation, but that alone is enough to kind of give her an idea of like something where it's like, okay, you might not be interested in sitting down and playing a game, but clearly you're interested in the character performances. Clearly you're interested in the celebritydom of it. So there's always going to be an element of whatever your interest is or whatever your profession is, there's something that can appeal to you at a dinner party conversation about it.
Mm-hmm. And there's always going to be circles of people that don't care and are you know them on a different level. But there's also going to be communities that you can build online. Even though I make fun of MMOs, that's what they're great at. And there's communities you can build with people like listening to shows like this. I listen to a lot of shows like this and really really relate to the people I hear and talk to. And then I know like, oh, there's people out there that think like me and like the same things I like. And I think that's really powerful. It's just sometimes you have different worlds.
Yeah. I mean, video games are a dense and demanding medium in a way that film and music and nothing else is. Like you can walk into a movie theater and see a movie, right? And so that's always going to be a challenge for games. And they sort of fall back on, I think it's a little bit of a defensive attitude to be like, well, it actually makes more money than music. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like music is in the car whenever anyone is doing anything. Like it permeates the nation and the world in a way that like games don't, and frankly probably never will, because they require your interaction, your participation, and so that's never going to change. It's never going to go away. But like it is what it is. Like you don't need to feel anything different about your hobby and your passion just because it hits people in a different way than other mediums do, or that they interact with them in a different way.
I was surprised to hear that Chris's fellow soldiers in the army might like look down on him for playing games. Maybe it's a stereotype, but like my vision of soldiers when they have downtime is playing a lot of video games. I reached out to a former Air Forceman that I know, Seth Macy, the aforementioned Seth Macy. I ran this question by him and he said, that's wild because when I was in, we all played PS2 and had no shame about it at all. There was a guy who built a custom box to fit on an aircraft so he could take his PS2 and CR2 with him when he deployed. I just ignore people who scoff at my hobby because their hobby is usually drinking, driving around, or a combination of the two.
Hopefully not. Yeah, I think we hear tons of stories about how, like, in their downtime, that's how a lot of soldiers are spending it, and how there's like programs where they can get these kind of equipment essentially to make sure that they have leisure time that they can spend, even if they're like in the barracks. I don't know a ton about that life, so I'm going to try not to get too much into detail with it. But regardless, like we've read stories where that's clearly a resource for people in that field. So I'm surprised to hear that too. It might just be that particular group. I mean, there will be people who just don't don't like to like my brother hates one of my brothers hates TV shows. He just refuses to get involved in any of them. I have to trick him into watching them if at all. So it's not everybody's thing, and that you might find like a community where everyone agrees TV shows suck because the argument is they always get bad by the end of it. So why am I investing all of my time in it? That's what my brother's angle always is. So people have their own reasons for shunning different pieces of media. But I still think like Justin, you were talking about music. And that sort of reminded me that when I finished The Last of Us 2, it was right around when we were ready for dinner, and I wanted to let the credits roll, like see if there was any post-credit scene or anything. And frankly, the music was kind of nice. And my brother and sister-in-law were commenting about that. And like there's music that's composed strictly for video games, and you would otherwise never have access to them unless you looked them up or you played the game. So even on that side, sharing that around and having that be like just a music album rather than necessarily a game in its entire experience. There's just so many angles in to try to enjoy it. And I feel like there's a possibility to bring up something that resonates with someone, even if overall they just don't want to sit down and play it at the end of the day.
Good question, Chris.
Yeah, good question.
That brings us to Video Game 20 Questions. Our suggestion this week comes from Sean from Detroit-ish. Let the questioning begin. Coming to ABC this fall, Detroit-ish.
Man, I need to know philosophically, should we like really try to win this week, or should we just do what we did last week? Boy, last week was a mess.
I think we should try to win.
I was trying to win.
Yeah.
I was just trying to goof.
Yeah, well, it's always a mix, right? Okay. But is this game? I don't even know. Can you drive vehicles in this game?
No.
Okay.
That's always tricky because it's like, what is a vehicle? What did we determine a horse was or wasn't a vehicle?
No, yeah. I forgot about the horse part of it. I was going to talk. I thought planes are like, could you drive a plane?
Yeah, plane. No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No motorized vehicles. When I say vehicle, it's got to be combustion engine powered.
Fair enough.
Or electric. All right. Is this from after 2000?
No.
Okay.
Is this game from before 1990?
No.
90s game.
90s game. Does this game have 3D graphics?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it a licensed game?
No. That's 5.
Did this game release on the PlayStation 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it have sequels on contemporary PlayStation consoles?
No.
We're never going to get
this. Was this game exclusive to the PlayStation 1?
Yes.
Whew.
Is it made in Japan?
Yes.
Is it an RPG?
Is it an RPG? No. That's 10.
Was it made or developed by a Sony studio?
No.
So, okay. I mean, okay. PS1 exclusive. PS1 exclusive 3D game made in Japan, but not by Sony.
Is it in the PS Mini?
What a good question.
But I don't know.
While you're not going to look it up. Okay.
You want me to look it up?
Yeah.
I don't know what's in the PS Mini.
Yeah, Sam, do you know what's in the PS Mini?
Well,
quick, watch his hands. What's the name of typing?
It would have some level of popularity, right?
Right. Yeah. I guess we could say well, yeah, no, that's true. It would have had to have been like well received
I can now answer your question. Is it in the PS Mini, the PlayStation Classic? No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did it get good scores?
Didn't hear that, but saw that. Said yes.
Yeah, he said yes, but we didn't hear it. So.
Yes.
That's okay.
It was well received.
So I'm thrown off a little by
people must have been pissed it wasn't in that collection.
Is this game? Is this game part of a series or franchise?
Yes,
but not on current contemporary consoles.
Yeah, that's what he said.
When did Metal Gear 5 come out? Could this be Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah. Is this? Yeah, exactly. That was last generation. It could be. Was this? And you asked if it was Sony published, right? And the answer was no.
Sony developed.
I asked developed.
Sony developed.
No.
Okay,
and the answer was no.
That's obviously Konami.
Is there stealth in this game?
Oh yeah, that's 15.
Oh yeah. And emphatic.
It could also be like Tenchu though. Like we don't know yet.
Tenchu.
Like okay,
I was trying to think of that. Yeah.
Is this made by Konami?
No.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, could still be Tenchu. Is this a ninja
also,
game?
Is this a ninja game? Yes.
Okay, so it's not this. Well, so what's the? I think we got it. We got Tenchu, but like, what's the Oh man, I can't even think of the name of it. Anyway, it's probably Tenchu. I don't know anything about Tenchu. Take it, Justin.
Well, I'm trying. I just want to. I'm doing whatever my version of the Mind Palace is. It's not the same as Sam's.
Get it in 17.
Yeah, just trying to think if there's any other ninja game. It could be. I actually don't.
Also, Damon typed when he was typing. He typed about 5 letters.
I love it. The new hack.
6 letters.
Is this Tenchu?
Yes, it is Tenchu.
Nice.
Wow,
Not bad.
Nice.
I'm actually really surprised. Good work, Justin.
Yeah,
and
seriously.
Tina, for getting the stealth part too. Oh my gosh, that was great.
Well, it was the Konami Metal Gear lead.
Tenchu
We got
stealth,
lucky with that.
stealth assassins. It has stealth in the name.
Yeah. Who made
And there
that?
are Tenchu games, right? There's like a Wii one or something, right?
Yeah. There are a lot of sequels, just not on current gen consoles.
Well, Damon, I'm looking at this on Wikipedia. The publisher
I know. Activision
is weird.
Whoa.
Yeah, developed by Acquire, published by Activision.
So maybe there's no clear rights to that series right now, or something like that. Activision's not putting them out.
Well,
Acquire.
I think. What's that, Justin?
Acquire. I'm just on Wikipedia. They pitched in on the development of Octopath Traveler.
Cool.
They did a good job with that.
When before Activision revealed Sekiro, a lot of people were hoping it would be a new Tenchu game. When there were the rumors.
Okay, interesting. Because maybe they showed Katana or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was Kunai. I liked Tenchu a lot when it came out, but I haven't played it since then. So it's probably pretty clunky today. I think even for a stealth game, the enemies won't notice dead bodies. You can just leave dead bodies everywhere, and the enemies pay no mind to it.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Skyrim is from current times, and you can shoot someone in the face with an arrow, and as long as you hide for like 15 seconds, you're good. So
I've killed everybody in a Mongol camp except for one person, and they see a body, and they're like, "Whoa!" And they're like, "Well, back to guard duty."
Yeah, I know.
Especially if you have the charm that reduces the amount of time that they'll hunt for you by 40%.
I love when they call for their friends, but all their friends are dead.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be like, they'll like do like a little horn call or something, and then they're like, "Well, I guess everything's fine now."
Yeah.
I mean, I'm up in this tower. It's not like I could see every single person dead around me.
His friend is dead. He says, "Oh, must be the wind."
Yeah, must be the wind.
Tenchu was reviewed by Doug Perry on IGN, and it got 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
9.
This entire review is 6 paragraphs long,
and there are bound to be some interesting typos in there for sure. All right, that's our show for this week. All the scoops that we have for this week. Apologies for the technical issues with our video this week. I know there's lots of hiccups. Not sure what the issue was. Hopefully we get that sorted out for next week. Remember, you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Borba, working behind the scenes. My name is Damon. This is IGN Gamescoop, and we're out.
What about the outro song?
I'll have to learn that there is a goodbye song. Okay, I'll learn it for next week.
There you go.
Okay.
Or you could just put everything in past tense. It was good to see you.
Yeah,
That's true.